Part 1 covered the creation of the Crown Point Military Road, built in 1759 to 1760. It was built by the British Army to connect Fort Crown Point near the southern end of Lake Champlain to the fort at No. 4 in what is now Charlestown, New Hampshire. The British followed the route then known as the Indian Road across the Green Mountains of Vermont. Part 1 also covered the havoc diseases brought by Europeans did to the native population. Between 1616 and 1639, 3 outbreaks of disease spread through the region, killing nearly 90% of its inhabitants, which would later allow the British to claim land that was once held by the Abenaki as they retreated into Canada following the defeat of the French and Indian War. With that recap, let's begin Part 2 of the 12,000-year-old road of Vermont, finding the Indian Road. Henry B. Atherton served as captain of Company C, 4th Vermont Infantry Regiment during the Civil War, followed by a career in journalism as the editorial manager of the Telegraph of Nashua. Atherton wrote a report on the old Indian Road for another paper, the Black River Gazette, which was published on August 5, 1870. The report retraces the steps of James Cross, who was hired by the government of Massachusetts to locate a route from Fort Dummer in what is now known as Brattleboro, Vermont, to Lake Champlain. The report is titled, "The Old Indian Road." Diary of James Cross, 1730. The journey begins on Monday, April 27, 1730. At about 12 of dock we left Fort Dummer and travailed that day 3 miles, and lay down that night by West River, which is 3 miles distant from Fort Dummer. Nota bene, I travailed with 12 Canady Mohawks that drank to great excess at ye fort and killed a Scatacook Indian in their drunken condition, that came to smoke with them. Their first day's journey was a short one for obvious reasons. A foe familiarly known in later days as his Old Tangle Legs, obstructed the path of James and his companions. Rum, that, 100 years ago blotted out the noblest trait in the character of these Mohawks, their hospitality, and made them kill their guests that came to smoke with them, has not materially changed in the last century and a half, either in its nature of effects, unless it be for the worse. Tuesday. We travailed upon the Great River about 10 miles. We kept ye same course upon ye Great River, travailed about 10 miles, and eat a drowned buck that night. Thursday. We travailed upon the Great River within 2 miles of ye Great Falls in said river, then we went upon land to ye Black River above ye Great Falls, went up in that river and lodged about 1.5 miles from the mouth of Black River, which day's travail we judged was about 10 miles. Thus far the distances are tolerably accurate. The Great River is, of course, the Connecticut, and the Great Falls, Bellows Falls. Friday. We crossed Black River at ye falls, afterwards travail through ye woods north-northwest. Then across Black River again about 11 miles above our first crossing, afterwards travailed ye same course, and pitched our tent on ye homeward side of Black River. The falls where they first crossed Black River is, no doubt, at Springfield Village, and 2 or 3 miles above where they encamped the night before. The second crossing place was near Perkinsville, and that they pitched their tent that night on the southwesterly side of the river between the latter place and Upper Falls, and at the base of the eastern extremity of Hawks Mountain. Saturday. We crossed Black River, left a great mountain on ye right hand and another on ye left. Keep a northwest course till we pitch our tent after 11 miles travail by a brook which we called a branch of Black River. The great mountain left upon the right hand after crossing Black River was doubtless a Scutney, while that upon the left was Hawks Mountain. Hawks is named after one of the builders of the Crown Point Road, Colonel John Hawks, a hero of Fort Massachusetts. Hawks was killed by Native Americans on the mountain that now bears his name. It appears that both men crossed the same path to Hawks Mountain. Hawks Mountain is now a wildlife management area operated by the Vermont Department of Forests, Parks, and Recreation that describes the terrain on Hawks as very steep and rugged. Nonetheless, it was part of the Indian Road. Luckily, that steep and rugged terrain left the mountain untouched by later settlers that left behind parts of the Indian Road. When the British started to settle in the area, they created roads that better served their methods of transportation. The method of transportation for thousands of years of the native people of North and South America was by boat and foot. While Europeans relied on horses and the wheel, two methods that are poor at navigating steep and rugged terrain. Cross's journey gave enough pieces of information to help possibly locate the location of the crossing of the Black River, leaving behind the mountain on your left. This location of the Black River is a long, flat, shallow, easy-to-cross section of the river that travels away from Hawks. From this section of the river heading back towards Hawks Mountain, one is greeted by a large section of a stone wall that is lining a path. Following this path, there's another stone wall. This time the wall goes up the steep and rugged mountainside of Hawks. The path that started near the river seems to be lined by this stonework as it travels up. The path is decayed, overgrown, and at times barely visible. It has been lost to time and forgotten. As predicted by Henry B. Atherton, that line across our territory, traced first by the moccasin of the savage, then more sharply by Hawks, Stark, and Goff, which we have called the Indian Road, is fast becoming obliterated. In a few years, no vestige of it will remain. Atherton underestimated the effect of time on stone. The road is still here. It only needed to be found.